Oh my God. I should memorize a level and be your co-pilot.
Yeah, that would be fun. That would be a fun stream. We could do a stream like that.
But I'm like, okay, like 5 more steps. Like it'll be like rally driving. I'm like,
yeah. I was just thinking like Sega Rally.
Left.
Like, right turn. Like, look up, hit the button. Hit the button.
We are back today, everybody, with a special offline episode. We're going to do a deep dive with our good friend Chris Cross, who is back today. We had him last back here in September, where we talked about some Medal of Honor stories, Darksiders, some fun stuff, Trespasser. But we're back today. You all asked for you guys stop talking about your nerd stuff. Like, we want to hear from Chris.
Oh.
So we're 7 months later, and we finally are getting back with him. Chris, man, how are you doing? Welcome to the show.
Welcome back, too.
Good, man. What's up? No.
I think this offline format is perfect for Chris.
Yeah.
So good. Since we last spoke, man, you started up this podcast, The Brain Arcade, and I'm excited to talk about that. I listened to an episode today.
Good listen. Man.
Really good listen.
You guys listened? Oh, it's
yes.
Great.
Yeah.
Right now, I'm so focused on just hit the follow button. I don't care.
Just follow it. Well, we're gonna link it. So you follow that podcast. Yeah. It's much easier to listen to than our podcast because they're only 40-minute episodes compared to whatever we're gonna give you today. But this will be an excellent listen today too.
Talk for hours.
At least an hour. At least an hour. But whatever it goes. But yeah, man, we're excited to hear more about your career and stuff you've been up to and just what you're doing now. And
so Brain Arcade is a podcast where we talk about the psychology of game design, and not, I don't mean deep hard psychology in some episodes, because I'm going to get people that are experts to come on and talk about stuff.
Yes.
But just from my observations over 30 years, it's I've always designed with the player in mind. And to do that, you have to get in their head. And to get in their head, you have to at least do some observational psychology. And you kind of learn what works or what doesn't work. And so the idea is that I've got these observational sort of rules of thumb, and I'm going to bring people in that either have other interesting angles on stuff or can prove or invalidate what I'm saying. Right.
Okay.
And it's really just pick up knowledge over the years. I talk about, cognitive overload and how does that work into game design, player types and all of this. I could go on for hours, and, it's basically, I try to bring in people who can cover a specific topic one at a time.
On your latest one that I listened to today was with Liam.
Yes.
Is he your co-host or is he...
he was originally going to be the co-host, but then life happens. And so basically I was like, you know what, I'm going to press on. And he's going to be more he's going to co-host when he can. Right. So he'll show up, but he actually has a neuroscience background, which is where the podcast idea came from. So he has we do an episode about endorphins and dopamine and stuff later, and he'll talk about the neurochemistry going on.
We talk about that a lot here.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the whole thing. The whole thing is let's get the most dopamine drops.
Hits, yes.
Let's go.
Rockets.
We have a friend whose channel's name is Cyber Dopamine. That's his whole focus.
Oh, that's amazing. I have a game designer friend, so that you said rockets, and his mantra was always if you die and you had rockets left over, they were wasted.
That's that's right. And you last episode you were talking about how much you enjoy rockets and grenades and explosions, and that's a focus for your game design. And I was replaying some Medal of Honor 1 and also Infiltrated today.
Oh, you played Infiltrator.
I did play Infiltrator. Yeah. Well, these guys, Rob.
Yes.
Rob was
Infiltrator's amazing.
It's awesome.
Talk about a gem on the Game Boy.
It was totally slept on. It did
Yes.
good numbers, but it didn't get the recognition it deserved. Because
it was not in the primary ROM list on one of my retro handhelds that they shipped from China, and I was like, why? And I went into like the extras, and they had it, and they did have it in there, but it wasn't like the featured. And I'm like, what the hell, guys? It was an awesome game, nice top down like style, and even my 3-year-old son was enjoying
Run and gun top down.
that's awesome.
2D. I mean, it's awesome.
It's great. It's like Commando, the arcade game, kind of, but like, kind of more free roaming. It was really good. It's like I said, it got slept on. I think it just kind of got. It came out in a weird window, as I remember too.
Yeah, right.
Like a weird release window. I don't know.
I also think the biggest problem with the Game Boy Advance at the time is that when you saw like a property like Medal of Honor, you're like, oh, this is probably just a cash grab kind of thing. It's not going to be good or something, you know. So I know like the time frame was kind of difficult. Yeah,
totally. That and also like your expectation was instead of a 2D sprite, you wanted a 200 poly dog-faced guy, right? So basically, there was a fidelity difference, but I would say that.
You want to talk about fidelity difference, Chris? Yeah. I, after that, played the Game Boy Advance version of Medal of Honor Underground. Were you involved with that at all?
Oh, I knew about that port. That one, they actually tried to go first person, right?
They did, unfortunately.
Yeah, that one was a cash grab.
Yeah, I saw it was like 2 frames per second, and the bad guys are all these blue suits, like amorphous blobs. And I'm like, what in the world?
What is this?
Yeah, but the box art's so cool. And they have the intro movie from the PS1 version. And then
right. And then you're like, oh my God, this feels like it's going to be so quality. And then you're like, wow, blue blobs. Like
I feel like it's hard to go 3D on the Game Boy Advance, though.
Yeah, I don't think it didn't have the right chipset to go hard 3D. Like
they had to fake it, right? Like the SNES, right? Where it's like
it was basically like old build engine, like early Doom, like moving sprites around in a faked 3D space, right? So
I was watching that in a documentary recently. Actually, it's so interesting just how that works, and like it's just wild. And everybody, I know you're all asking us, give more intros on the guests. So if you haven't seen Chris before and you didn't catch last September's episode, let me do a quick intro on you, Chris. So Chris, or Christopher Cross here, is a renowned veteran in the games industry for over 30 years. He's helped design games such as Medal of Honor Frontline, Rising Sun, Infiltrator, and also, or you were lead designer.
Yeah, but that's when lead designer meant like game director.
Game director. What I mean? That's
like
what they meant back in the 90s.
Yeah, back in the day, like the industry, like teams weren't that big. Like we didn't really have like a director level. Like that was a new thing, and so like lead designer at the time meant you basically designed the whole thing.
Well, it was you, Stephen Spielberg, right? And like one other person, like sort of, was that right? I'm trying to remember now.
Exec producer was Steven Spielberg for sure. And then I don't remember how my credits came out in those. However, if you go to your Discord, I went and I looked at Moby Games, and then I made a sheet of like my full credits list. And so
Let me look.
There's a couple of different tabs. I did this in preparation to do a resume.
Oh, would you say that Medal of Honor was your first big breakthrough project?
Yeah. So, here, let's actually do. So, since we're doing a deep dive in some retrospectives,
let's do it.
Break down that resume.
Absolutely.
All right. So, my first job was at Blizzard. I was a QA tester.
Okay.
So I was really good at Warcraft 1, and then Warcraft 2 came out, and then I finished Warcraft 2, and so like in 1 month, I was already like ditching university and like just trying to figure out what was going on with my life. And like in a 4-week span, 5 people stopped me mid-sentence and were like, I have no idea what you're talking about. You need to figure out how to work in video games. Right. Cause I was like, okay, check this out. Here are like 6 valid strategies for Dune 2 building of a dynasty. Like, right. And it was like, oh, check out this bug on like, did you know that in Ridge Racer, you could reverse turn on it was basically, I had all of this stuff. If esports was a thing, I would have. Oh wow! I didn't think you were going to put it up on screen. Yeah. Okay.
Oh yeah.
Oh, all right. I would have been like a pro, or I would have attempted to become a pro Street Fighter 2 player. Like I was a fanatic. Like
nice
fanatic.
You can do the Hadoukens just with your eyes closed.
Basically, I knew if you show me a Street Fighter 2 machine, and I just watch the attract screen, I can tell you whether it's chipset 2 or 3 based on the length of Guile's leg. Right.
You got to talk to our friend Russ.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
he's a big Street Fighter guy.
Because like chipset 1 or release 1 was like, it was essentially like a little buggy. And then chipset 2, like the only bugs that were left were like catastrophic ones, like handcuffs, reset the machine, and invisible Dhalsim. Right. And then we dive into those later if you want, but there was like weird button combinations, and you could stick somebody to Guile, and then there was like invisible throw is how you got out of it. Like he would go through the throw motion and the other person would fall down. But you could also do that invisible throw from across the screen, so basically you could cheat. And then Dhalsim had like a reset code. Like if you did like, it was basically like this delayed thing. Anyway, like for instance, a guy walked up and I was doing speed runs in the arcade, right? Like I was trying to get like sub 12 minutes with every character, or like sub
speed running before there was speed running.
Correct. Like I was basically like, I was trying to speed run under 12 minutes back in the day, or even 11 minutes. I think I got close to 10 a couple times. You basically had to perfect every round. You had to come out and like perfect it, perfect it. Like, and even the bonus rounds, even though those had a set timer, you still wanted to like, you could finish like a couple of them like milliseconds early, right? Because you would go to kill the last barrel, or like
you
finish
memorize
the car really fast, and like
You've memorized down to the frame.
Yeah, essentially down to the frame. And so this guy walks up and he's like, it was like loser stays, winner pays. Or sorry, loser pays, winner stays, right? And so the guy puts his challenge quarter up, and I'm like, hey, can you let me finish this speed run? Like I'm gonna try and like, like I'm going for it. I got a good run going. Like it's hard to go really fast with Dhalsim. Like just be cool. In fact, there's like 6 other machines here. And he was like, nah, man, like it's a challenge machine. And I was like, oh. So he puts his quarter in, and I was like, are you sure you want to do this, dude? I didn't actually say that, but in my head I was like, you know what?
Why would you challenge a guy that's trying to do a speed run?
Yeah, totally. And so he gets on. I sandbag him. Like I just obliterate him in the first round. Like, I think he even took Chun-Li, and Chun-Li versus Dhalsim at the time was like a advantage Chun-Li matchup, right? Because she could pogo stick your leg. And so basically, it was very hard to find openings, and I've demolished him one round. And then the second round, I sort of sandbagged him a little bit. Like I was like, okay, I see his pattern. I'm going to play into it some. And then we get to the third round, and it was like right before, like in between ready and fight, I reset the machine. Right.
Oh.
And I went, oh, what happened?
I don't know how any of that happened. This is crazy.
I pulled a quarter out of my pocket, moved one machine over, and started another speed run. Like
incredible, man.
And then he looked at me. He was like, "You did it on purpose." And I was like, "I don't know what you're talking about. No clue. No idea." Like,
so what?
He lost his quarter for my amusement.
Well, he'll never see that quarter again.
Yeah, exactly. It's such a dick move.
You had to have been what, like 10 at the time?
No, Street Fighter was 1990. It was Street Fighter 2 was like 1990, 1991, and I would have been a freshman in college.
No way. Okay, all right.
Yeah. So I was about 18.
I was like, what would I back 91? I would have been like 7.
Right. Yeah, I'm old, dude. I'm old.
Yes.
But you look good for your age.
Thanks, man. It's the half Korean, half redneck thing.
It's the beautiful hair too.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Rob and I are about to turn 40, so like we're entering, old man stage.
I have advice for 40.
Okay.
Okay. The fastest muscle loss is going to be in your legs.
Oh,
So
okay.
I used to do 10 for 10s, which was like every hour on the hour, do 10 squats for 10 hours, right? Don't do any more. Don't overachieve and try to do 20. Don't do it. But just every hour on the hour, just move. And if you spend any time bitching, you could have finished your squats.
Well, what's a squat exactly? I guess
no, just like a stand up and do a squat. Yeah.
Just pop a squat.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's it.
There you go. You did your first hour, Stubbs.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, exactly. So then on Tuesday it's push-ups. So 10 push-ups every hour on the hour.
Oh. Right? Not in the same day. It's not the same day.
Yeah,
it's not the same day.
It's tomorrow, dude. Yeah.
All right.
No, that's tomorrow.
I didn't realize that I was going to be working out. What's next?
Then Wednesday is like either planks or crunches or something.
No. Okay.
Yeah, okay. All right.
No, that's tomorrow's thing.
Okay, tomorrow. That's tomorrow's thing. Okay.
But then on Thursday you pick back up with squats, and Friday you do push-ups.
Okay.
Now the thing is like that first couple weeks you'll be like, man, these are like, I was knocking out 10 no problem this morning, and now it's 3 p.m. and I'm gassed, right? Like you eventually and the point is actually not strength or endurance. It's actually just the idea that you're spending calories every hour.
Got it.
You're getting up and moving, and you're doing something.
I'm gonna be like swearing your name though by like the third day.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. You
like crisscross, jump.
You should. You're like FaceTiming me while you're doing push-ups.
Yeah.
Like, Chris, fuck you, Chris. like,
damn you for designing my favorite childhood video game.
Like, just
making me work.
So, what you would call it? But you'll be surprised if you stick to it. So it's about consistency, and it's about like getting past the mental resistance.
Right.
It's basically just like you see 2 zeros on the clock, you just pop 10 out and you go back to it. Like you don't
just pop it out and then you're
just
back
bang it out
in the game. All right, bang it out.
You just bang it out.
Bang it out. Now I have the ADHD brain, so it's hard to break my hyper focuses. But I think if I set an alarm, like on the Google,
just set an hourly alarm.
And then
as soon as it hits. When I was at Nexon, I actually had our whole section in the office doing them with me.
Really?
Yeah, it was awesome. And then after a few weeks of just doing 10, or at some point you're like, oh, I think I could do 20 every hour now. You can start to increase. But like somebody said, dude, you've been doing push-ups now for a bunch of weeks. How many can you do in a row now? And I was like, I don't know. And then like I proceeded to do like 30 something, right?
And that leads to your face looking like it does now, which is a 40-year-old.
It does.
Okay.
Massive filters and like, no, I'm just kidding.
I'm gonna do it because I can feel it, man. I can feel like the muscle, slowly starting to go away and the bone density.
It starts happening a lot faster at 40. And so like,
oh boy.
If you, well, it's like you don't need to do that much if you're kind of doing something like I said and you're maintaining, right?
Yeah.
So like, it's one of those things that like I said, it's the point of the 10 for 10 is to break down that mental barrier too. And it's kind of a gateway drug into working out because you sort of get over the idea that the lazy resistance that you have of like, oh, this is so tiring.
I know.
Right?
Like I look at this monumental task of like, oh, I got to dedicate the next 2 hours to this task, to this. And I'm on a bike or I'm doing weightlifting.
And instead you're like, oh, hold on a sec. You bang out 10 push-ups. It's less than 30 seconds. And then you stand back up and you go back to doing your thing.
I can do that crisscross.
It's like, it's like eating a fig bar. It's like, you don't even think about it.
You're right. And it probably
eat your push-ups.
Exactly.
That's probably a good thing especially for Stubbs and I. We spend a lot of time sitting at a desk and just constantly from the
playing on these, doing this stuff.
Break out of that routine for
you get one of those like Bob Dylan harmonica holders for the Handheld, and then
that's right.
And play.
Wait. Please don't tell me
I have just the thing.
Oh, geez.
See what I'm saying?
I've just magnets, dude. Magnets.
Yeah. Magnets. The power of magnets.
See? And then put the phone there.
How are you going to play your handheld like this?
Yeah.
Well, I got to get a telescopic controller.
Thanos edition. Now we're talking. Now we're talking.
See,
oh my
look,
God.
Chris is right. Look, we already got the setup, man. Look at this.
Yeah.
Look at this.
See, that's awesome.
You can cook, you can drive, you can do everything with that setup.
That's right.
I'm like visibly sweating right now. That's how much I don't work out right now.
Oh, it takes time. Well, you could do the who was it? Was it?
I was doing good, and then I fell off.
Deion Sanders or Walter Payton used to do like it was like, what's your workout? He's like, I don't work out. They're like, well, what do you do? He's like, well, I watch a lot of TV, and every commercial, like I just do push-ups till the commercials are done. And then the next commercial break, I do another exercise. And every commercial break was basically doing another exercise every night.
Incredible. Rob, you and I need to commit to this. What do we call this plan?
Look at it this way.
Yeah.
We're on a podcast usually for 2 hours on Mondays, right? So we have to take a break at every hour to do something.
Every hour.
Yeah.
I'm going to commit with you the rest of this year.
We're gonna
Live
do it live.
on the hour, at the hour mark into the podcast. We need to get the hell out of our chairs.
And do something.
I like the squats. The squat wasn't too bad, but the push-ups harder to see on camera for the entertainment for the audience, and also it hurts my body. But the
squats are funnier too.
You want it to hurt your body though.
I know.
Yeah.
I wasn't ready for this today. I also had a beer. I also had a beer right before going on. Chris, I also have a half of a toothpick I swallowed earlier in the week that's working its way through my body right now. So I don't want to contort too much.
It's going through sideways right now.
Yeah, something's happening. It's a whole thing, dude. I bit into a sandwich half cocked.
There's a spaghetti noodle draped across.
What if it's like wedged like across?
Yeah,
and things are just getting sliced down the middle there.
According to the experts on Reddit and doctors on Quora, it should be exiting my body today.
Oh, okay.
So,
well, I mean, it's just going to be. Is it a wood toothpick?
Yeah, half of one.
I mean, it's probably just like soft wood pulp by now.
Yeah, that's what they say. It should be all right.
Yeah.
I was really dramatic about it on Monday.
You're okay.
Okay, I'll be all right.
I eat worse all the time. It'll be
okay, all right. Damn that.
All right. So wait.
Anyways, you were talking about you're a QA tester now at Blizzard.
Right.
What?
So I sent out a really resume and then cold sales my way into a test job at Blizzard.
Okay.
Which I didn't even know that I knew how to do, but I sold knives in college just like everybody else did. And then actually, the reason I think the turning point, and there's a guy named there. He's where all the ex-Blizzard guys went. I can't think of the name of the company right now, but it's I'll think of it.
Activision?
No. He's like Secret Door and Dream something. I'll think of it.
Okay.
But his name's Shane, and I was dead set. I was like, if I get a face-to-face interview, I'm getting hired. Right.
Okay.
And so I go in there and I go, blah, 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 blah. I beat like Warcraft II, blah, 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 blah. He's like, oh, okay. Like, yeah, that Human 7 was impossible to beat without the patch. And I go, what's a patch? And he goes, wait. No. He goes, wait, how did you beat Human 7? Right. And I go, blah, blah, blah. And I broke it down and I was like, basically the Griffin spawn on Human 7 starts early and hard. And if you don't know how to mitigate it, like there's no way to beat the level. And the way you change it is you actually send a peon up to expose the town with the fog of war because it changes the rate of spawn, right?
Oh, okay.
And basically, I mentioned that to him, and essentially what I just said was like a perfect tester response, right? Like,
okay, yeah.
Here was a thing. I investigated it. I found a workaround, and then I was able to explain it to him, and I think that's what got me the job. Right.
Nice.
So,
okay.
I worked on Warcraft II language ports. Capitaine sur les ponts.
I saw that for Mac, right?
I did the Mac port. I did a bunch of language ports. We released some like a map pack, like the W Zone map pack.
Rad.
And then I was not a really good map designer at the time. There was a guy named Dean Shipley. He was amazing. And then I worked on Diablo. Finished Diablo. In the near the end of Diablo, though, I got to play one of the first builds of StarCraft.
No way.
But it was like the version I played was
chills. Okay, sorry.
The version I played was Orcs in Space. So it was like a purple tile set, and instead of Zergs, we were calling them Zergs, but they were still Orcs.
Interesting.
Like it was wild. Like it felt kind of spacey, but not spacey. It's like they just replaced all the water with like sparkles.
I was like, did they take Warcraft and just turn it into space theme, basically?
That was the first version. Yeah, was they took Warcraft, changed the art to make it more spacey, and then before they started to revamp everything for the first StarCraft. Yeah.
Wow.
And then also one of the things, so Blizzard was pivotal for me, even though like I didn't want to drink the Kool-Aid and stay. Like all of the guys that I was in the test pit with were like driving Ferraris in 10 years because they were still there as the company grew. You know what I mean? I don't know that they were all driving Ferraris. That's probably a little bit.
What does that mean, driving Ferraris?
They made a lot of money.
Okay.
They made a lot of money.
All right.
Because World of Warcraft came out and they were printing money, and all those guys were part of the old crew, right? Like my employee number at Blizzard, at that iteration of Blizzard, was employee number 50.
Wow. Yeah. No way.
So if I would have stayed, like there's a multiverse version of Chris right now that's like that's stuck with the Blizzard path, you know, and had a totally different life. And like, you know, I like
you just have Hearthstone cards just popping out of your
Yeah, exactly. Oh, actually the lead producer on Hearthstone came from the Medal of Honor team. This guy named Jason Chase. Wow. Yeah. So actually, the guy who did Russia in European Assault, the lead designer for that set of levels, is at Blizzard now. And
really?
I think, he's doing, he's working on Diablo 4. Like the thing is, like it's a small community. Like you kind of know where everybody goes.
Yeah. For
years, right? It's not like people disappear. So then anyway, so I went to go test at Activision for a little bit. You know, realized that I had missed the frat party introduction, like hazing ceremony for that place. And then because of my Blizzard, like there was a moment where after a bunch of months, and I was trying to figure out what I was doing at night, I was doing things like learning 3D Studio R4 and then 3D Studio Max and deciding if I wanted to go into 3D. I was doing C++ books at night. Like I was doing all of that stuff exploratory. And then this guy walks down the stairs and I'm like, what's that guy do? And they're like, he's a game designer. I'm like, that's what I want to do. And so, you know, and there was no way to learn it. And there was a moment where I said, well, I said I was going to do this for 6 months and go back to school because I know what I wanted to take. And and the thing is the curriculum for a game designer is so broad at that time. Like I was like, I'm going to have more credits than I can graduate with. Right. Like at the time you were a jack of all trades. I would have had to put together like a 6-year program just to get back out the door with some skills that I think would be applicable. And I realized I was like, dude, I got Blizzard on my resume. I can get another job. You can do this. Yeah, right. So I just stuck to it.
Yes.
Then while I worked on Dark Reign. Well, the test pit at Activision was different. I worked on like Ghost Bear, Dark Reign, like I-82. Like we played everything and we rotated, you know, like early build of like Pitfall 3D. And then a friend of mine got hired in a Dreamworks Interactive, and he was like, oh, you guys are doing a kids RTS? You should go hire my friend Chris because he's got Blizzard experience. And so that experience got me into Dreamworks. The short version of this is they were dissolving the kids team. I went down to work on Trespasser, and the GM said, hey, our lead designer is leaving this project that we're like codename Medal of Honor. Do you want to go lead design it? And I was like, yeah, let's go. Boom.
Wow.
Right? That's it.
Yeah. And so I came in like my college neighbor in the dorms was on the team because he's the one that got me hired in, and he was the other designer. And he and I worked, like did that first Medal of Honor. Like slept under our desks and all kinds. And then like he did all the initial like paper mission designs. So anything you play in that PlayStation 1 version, he wrote all of we called it a SMEAC, situation, mission, execution, administrative, and command. Right. And so it was basically like the mission, like situation, like what's the setting, what's going on, mission, what's your goal, execution was how are you going to do it. What did I say? Administrative was like, what logistics there were for you. Like, are you going to parachute in? Or all that other stuff. So he wrote all of that stuff for all the early missions.
Cool. Interesting. So, because like you were talking about parachuting, I'm like thinking about James Bond 007. I know that Medal of Honor, some of that inspiration was drawn from GoldenEye. So can you talk a little bit about that? I'm just curious
actually.
about that.
So I've told this story a bunch, but like I'll give you guys the super secret special version.
Nice.
So
that's what we want.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so the team that became the Medal of Honor team was working on Lost World 2, which is a PlayStation 1 game.
Okay.
And so
Jurassic Park.
Jurassic Park: Lost World.
Okay.
Yeah. So the Lost World movie came out. They did the first one to be like more day and date. And then, day and date is industry jargon for like we're releasing day and date with the movie, right? Or right around it, so that they could leverage the marketing of movie release.
Right.
They could basically
synergy.
double up their marketing dollars. Yeah, the synergy between the two.
Yeah.
And then day and date sucks, but
GoldenEye
just-
said no.
Well, and also like with Medal of Honor, I mean, it was its own property, so I'm sure you enjoyed the fact that you didn't have to work day and date with that,
Totally. And so we had like at the time, I think there were more like quarterly reviews or semi-annual with Stephen. So okay, there's two things you have to know. Dreamworks SKG, right? And the SKG is Spielberg, Katzenberg, Geffen. So Dreamworks SKG was movies and animation, right? So there's DreamWorks Animation, and they all sat up under the DreamWorks SKG like parent umbrella. DreamWorks Interactive was Steven's more like pet project. Like Geffen and Katzenberg didn't care about it unless it made money, right? Like they cared, but it was like not in their wheelhouse. They were like, we don't care. Steven, however, has a lot of kids. He's a huge gamer. At the time, at the time he was playing a lot of GoldenEye with his kids, and they were playing multiplayer and doing a bunch of stuff, right? Whatever. And so they go in to show him Lost World 2. And he's always got his finger on the pulse of like media relevancy and zeitgeist, right? And he's like, Lost World 2, dude, this license is going to be dead by the time this comes out. You know what you should do? Like, I'm making this World War II movie. World War II is going to be hot really soon, right? And he's like, but I don't want you, like, the license is not a good video game license, so don't license it. Okay. However, the game that you should make, I've been playing a lot of GoldenEye. You should make GoldenEye World War II. And that was the mission. He didn't actually give us any more than that initially. He just said, go make GoldenEye World War II. So everybody came back. I wasn't on the team yet. Everybody came back and stressed the out because they were like, how are we going to do GoldenEye on a PlayStation 1?
Right. The 32-bit versus 64.
Remember, Unreal Engine didn't exist, right?
Right.
There was no set first-person shooter engine. It had to be built from scratch. So the first build that I played, and we were using Alpha, Beta, Charlie, Delta, and the first build that I played was the golf build, which was, like the Prove It build. It actually was still running on Lost World tech. So it looked like the guys were a little flat, like when they turned, like they were like weird, like pseudomorphy 3D. And then we replaced that rendering system with a new one, and then
polygons and all that.
Well, they were still 3D objects. Just the way they were rendered was mushy. Is the only way I can explain it. Is that it felt more like Presto Magic plasticine people as opposed to actual objects, right?
Right. Yep.
Like they were just mushy feeling. Like
it was more like GBA Medal of Honor Underground.
Yeah, exactly. It's like exactly like that. And then I came down. I had this monstrous SGI machine in my office. Like it was, like a ton, and it was like, had like it was a sight to behold, and the most powerful thing in the building. We had 2 or 3 of them.
That's the developer computer.
No, you know what?
N64.
No, because somebody got a hair up there about needing the most recent computer because they didn't want to spend long nights there like rendering shit out and stuff like that. And somehow I inherited it.
Oh, nice. Okay.
And so I was like, it's fine by me, dude. It plays Total Annihilation really well. Let's do this. Like, and then we played a lot of LAN games at work. Like, remember, this is kind of early days of internet. There were no like online,
right?
Like Total Annihilation 2 got Boneyard, right? Which was like, later on, just do a wiki search for like Total Annihilation Boneyard. And it's
producer Sony, can we pull that up on screen?
Yeah. Well, so it was basically a meta game outside the game, and it was like taking planets over. So like the results of your RTS match online would change the front line of the war. It was really cool. It was super meta.
That's rad. Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
It's super cool. But there wasn't any economy built around or anything like that. It was just a way for you to get missions and get matched up with people.
So it's like it's more than Doom, how Doom's land system worked, right? It was more intricate than that.
No, it's just there was a way. If you played online games, there was like a meta game about like the larger war around you. So the purpose of playing the RTS match was to win this planet, and that planet was up there, and you would play the map and do like, oh, I want to take that planet.
Okay,
and then you would have a battle about that planet, and then it would come back. It was almost like a season concept, right? Like, yeah, it was like early days.
It's like sorry to interrupt you. It's like that new game from Sony. What do they call it? Helldivers?
Helldivers. Yeah, it was basically like there's this like overarching situation.
Okay, here we go.
Like, what's happening? Oh, Total Annihilation, dude.
I've never played this. Yeah, I totally want to play this now.
Metal extractors. So they didn't
GOG maybe.
Yeah, GOG has it. What's really cool about this is one of the first games that didn't have a unit limit. You could just build you could just like put massive amounts of units out. The only thing is like the different armies were all kind of samey. So it really it sort of turned into like who could build.
Because like Age of Empires, even that had like a 200 NPC limit.
That was always my favorite thing to do in RTS games, just to see how much I could build.
Yeah. I think the total annihilation limit existed. I think it was like 500, but it was huge.
Yeah, that's enormous.
Yeah. And then it was all kind of robot based, and you would build like it was just cool. Like lots of air units, lots of boats. It was fun times. And so fast forward to like middle.
Okay.
Let's see what you got. Oh, this looks like the beginning of a new game.
Yeah.
I think somebody blasted somebody out like with a robot rush earlier. And the other thing is you could put all these units on patrol. So you could, as soon as they came out. So I would just put something on production queue for like 100 units and then set my patrol out in the fog of war where their bases would be. And so like basically you'd be building and like a plane would come through and then another plane and then another plane. And then you're like, oh wait, now there's 2 planes. Oh wait, there's 3 planes like every 15 seconds or something like that. It was fun times. Anyway, so Medal of Honor ships, PS2's coming out. They put me on Frontline. The other co-lead designer guy went to Underground. His name is Lynn Henson. That was the guy I lived in the dorms with. And then basically on the PS2 was my chance to like start from scratch. And so Medal of Honor Frontline I consider like completely mine. Right.
Nice. Like, okay. That's a good one.
That's probably my favorite Medal of Honor.
I think it's the one that has the most like IP cohesion.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
What it like its identity
felt like
is pure
blockbuster movie of it on its own.
Totally.
I mean, yeah.
You shipped that on Xbox and PS2.
Yes, that's right.
So was that a challenge to code for one versus the other? Because you got like a motion, what do they call it? Motion processor.
Yeah, and like the cell architecture and all of that stuff is actually easier. We built it for PS2 first, and then basically it became like because building for the Xbox is a lot closer to building for a PC.
Okay,
and so it was like build. We would design everything for the difficult one. And then essentially like porting it to like a PC style build was non-trivial, but it was doable, right? So it wasn't super hard. PS3, Xbox 360 got a little bit janky at times. And then, then after that, now everything's just a PC. Right.
Yeah. Now it's just all like, it's all whatever. And everything's ported to everything.
So, okay. Do you see that M1 Garand right there?
Yeah.
Okay. Not only did we get to test fire some of these with blanks in them on our training day or whatever.
That's cool.
But like we did a reload drill where it's like ting 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 ping, and then you reload it.
Ping is my favorite.
Yeah,
thing in the world.
And then we emptied it out again with Captain Die. Okay, you see how like this doesn't they've built technology to correct for this now, but the way the rifle looks now is not the way it looks in 3D Studio Max.
Really?
Like it looks like a musket because of the forced perspective. Like it's actually way fatter at the tip than it is at the butt.
Oh, really? So this in 3D Studio Max,
because of the way it's rendered.
Okay.
In 3D Studio Max, the way that weapon is built, it looks like a musket, like it's like a trumpet bell.
And you have to think ahead, like, okay, this isn't what it's going to look like in the final render. Okay.
Right. You had to render it with like a funky lens to get a preview, because what you're looking at is like these arms are attached to the camera, right? Which means that they're kind of using a different renderer than the regular renderer, and so the proximity to the lens like makes it, you couldn't, if you built it to scale, they get really pointy, right? So if you go back and look at other first-person shooters at the time where people didn't make them bell-ended, you'll notice that some of the rifles look super pointy at the end, and that's because of the perspective of the renderer for the weapons. Like,
that's so interesting. I gotta beat this one still. I've played the original so many times, and I really got to get into the PS2 series. I just fail. I can't get off the beach of Normandy hardly.
Oh, that one's just about memorizing the stopping points
where the bullets are.
Yeah. Well, actually,
no, there's spots you had to like. I guess
jump. That's right. You're
assist the
assist the guys, but also
on the beach. Yeah.
So the bunkers up top, they have triggers where the machine guns are, so that you can suppress them.
Okay.
So if you were just shooting at a certain spot at the bunker, it would stop the shoot.
It'll stop shooting.
Oh, really? Okay. So you hit a certain spot, they'll stop shooting, and then you can run to the next.
Yeah. So basically,
okay.
So get to the spot he says covering fire. You actually get like which one is like aimed at you, shoot at that one, and it'll suppress it for like 10 seconds.
Okay, I'm gonna pull this up. I'm gonna pull this up on my emulator tonight.
Take a notepad. Get a notepad right now.
Yeah, I gotta go. I gotta rewatch this. I love that. Like, this is like the Nintendo tip line. You know, the game counselor, except it's from the freaking developer of the game. It's amazing. This is
since we're talking about the weapons, what's your favorite weapon in the game?
Oh, it's the M1 Garand. But also, like, is
it because of the sound? Do you just like the way it sounds when it empties the clip, the ping? Yeah.
I also really liked that we didn't allow you to reload it in the middle.
Right.
Like, what you could do,
you had to empty the clip. Yeah.
Right. You had to empty it. Right.
Yep.
But to me, it was the most utilitarian weapon. You could take it into any situation. It was fine. Although it's the God, was it 1912? No, 1898 trench gun, the shotgun. Is like in real life is super cool. Like, so it has like a vent cover on top of it, right? Because it gets hot, but it had a bayonet affixed attachment on the front.
Wow.
And,
okay.
And so like, it's one of the most hated weapons by the German soldiers at the time. They would hear one of those shotguns and they would all go try to find that guy and kill him. Because
this guy's annoying.
It was hyper effective. Yeah.
Get him out of here.
It was hyper effective for clearing bunkers and trenches. And like one of the like things that we weren't able to get in is like, because you're firing buckshot, you could actually do bank shots off of walls. So like, you know, at a slight angle, you could like, actually, you know what it's like? If you play Unreal Tournament and use the flak gun, that has a slight amount of like deflection off of walls. It like that's real towards a shotgun.
Wow. Okay. So I was going to ask you this, like the historical accuracy versus like gameplay fun. Like I thought you would have to remove some of that accuracy to make a more fun arcade-like experience.
So like basically I used to have this mantra, and the thing is, it means nothing. Like most of it means nothing. But I would say like realism versus realistic. Right. Realistic is a drive towards emulating a or simulating reality. And realism is like your impressionistic take at realistic. So basically, I was trying to appeal to everybody's understanding or mythology of World War II. Right. Like your normal, like, like normal teenager on the street doesn't know what a tactical reload is with a shotgun or even any other weapon, right? They just don't, right? It's like they don't know what like cycle the bolt or like any of that. That means nothing, right? So you have to play a little bit towards their expectation for movies, but at the same time, you nudge it slightly towards reality, right? Now, this really comes into play in the like rates of fire of all the weapons. Like the real rate of fire difference between a bunch of the handheld weapons is actually almost indiscernible, right? Like it's like from weapon to weapon, unless you fire them side by side, it's just like it's fast.
Well, like a revolver though, like a revolver versus like a
but like,
pistol, but
like the difference between a Thompson submachine gun and an MP40 is like negligible, right? However,
they hold the same amount of bullets.
I tuned them to have different like character feelings. So
interesting.
So the Thompson submachine gun for us. Oh, that's the BAR.
Yeah.
So the Browning automatic rifle. By the way, Bonnie and Clyde. Bonnie's favorite weapon was the BAR.
Oh, the bar. Yes.
Yeah, and she was 5 feet tall, 100 pounds, and that thing weighs like 35 pounds.
Are you in this documentary here? The making of
which one's that one?
Frontlines. It's a YouTube video called Behind the Scenes Making of Frontline.
I don't know. Somewhere in there, I think I might be in it. John Garcia Shelton, Stephen Ratter.
This person's like, getting the audio for the guns.
Yeah. Mermaid statue. Yeah, this is great.
It's inspiration and
Yeah. Oh my God, you got to link me to this. This is I was looking for something like this before.
Let's drop this in this private chat, Sony.
Oh, yeah.
This link. Look at this.
So all of these animations are done by Sunil Thinkamushi and a guy named Ken Inglionto. Like, we did little maquettes because the way we built the soldiers, there's a guy, what was this? Kevin?
That's wild.
Kevin Chang, I think. So the reason he built these maquettes is I said, hey, we have a requirement. The soldiers have to be modular, right? But I need head variety.
Right.
Because like if we can't just have 3 of the same head. So I need to ensure that we have different heads. And this is how many heads we had in the game. It's not that many. It's just that you can't ever see the same head side by side.
Okay, so you just you varied them so
You're
that
not paying enough
there's enough
attention.
variety that you could fool someone to thinking like, wow, this is amazing detail.
Yeah, like you see this guy that looks like he's chewing on cotton in the middle. Yes. And then the guy next to him with like
it looks like Woody Harrelson.
Yeah, exactly. He's got a little Woody Harrelson kind of a thing, like a Woody Harrelson playing baseball with a lot of chaw in his mouth. So those two guys, like you would see them side by side, and they would look like different dudes. And then, like 100 yards later, you'd see the same 2 heads, but they'd be wearing different outfits and stuff. So it was like our cast of extras, right?
It's incredible to me that, in the first Medal of Honor, they were much more amorphous, like less detail on the characters.
Yeah,
They're basically
like
polygons.
triangles on a ball.
Triangles. That's right. Yeah. Very like Tomb Raider 1.
Yeah.
But it's incredible to me in just 3 years' time, because you released Medal of Honor in 1999 after GoldenEye, and then you released Frontlines in 2002. So in this couple of years, you did this huge leap in technology.
So PlayStation 1 was like going to PlayStation 2. So what you got on Frontline is almost the game that we originally designed for the PlayStation 1. It was basically all of our hopes and dreams before we had to like figure out how to make it work on like we had like we had Ferrari dreams. We would have settled for a Fiero, but we actually shipped a Volkswagen. And then like, right. And then basically by the time we got to PlayStation 2, we were able to ship the Fiero.
Amazing. So you already had these ideas with you from the start. Like you wanted
There was a lot of carryover.
D-Day and
just a lot of limitations you had to.
So D-Day is a different story. It's one of the times in hindsight that I'm like, I'm glad I got overridden because I didn't want D-Day in the PlayStation 2 game.
Why?
Interesting.
So, because it's such a signature level, and it was very much the PC team, which was a totally separate team. The 2015 team. So footnote: the 2015 team from Tulsa, Oklahoma, that later like mutinied and left and started Infinity Ward, who then did Call of Duty.
Call of Duty.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Also, my team on the PlayStation 2 team became Spark Unlimited, which also did Call of Duty.
Yep.
So like
they did the console versions, right?
Wow.
Yeah, they did the console versions for that before they started just
I remember the name. I'm like, when it comes to PS2, Xbox, I'm like an encyclopedia. I'm like, I know that.
Yeah.
I've heard it.
They left. They did that first 2 or 3, and then Infinity Ward dropped Modern Warfare, and it was like, oh, the game has changed.
Yes.
Like,
yes.
Right. Modern Warfare.
Yes.
But I was happy for Modern Warfare because I was like, oh, I can go back to just doing World War II. Like, had fun.
What you like? Well, then Call of Duty did a World War II specific game that was.
Well, they
called
did the
just,
first 3
you know,
were World War II.
Yes.
And then
Right.
Treyarch got involved. Treyarch did a World War II game. They did.
And they
World at
later
War.
in like 2018 though, they did like a specific one called WW2.
Yeah, but I think they were just like lazy.
Recycled at that point. Like
yeah,
that one.
recycling concepts. Yeah.
I think somebody thought they could cycle it back in, and like the thing is like grandma's spaghetti sauce. Like the recipe was lost.
It was, yeah.
Like basically nobody there could replicate it. They were just gonna do Call of Duty, but now we're gonna change the textures.
Yeah, the
But
first few were so good.
I also feel like it's a generational thing, like where when we were younger and growing up, you know, we heard the stories about World War II.
Yeah.
So we could tie that into our own life experiences. Whereas now, I think, imagine someone who's 18, they don't know a whole lot about World War II. It's not the same level of impact, I think.
The distance for them is like probably Vietnam is closer, or even like
more recently, like you know, Afghanistan or the Desert Storm.
Desert Storm, that's right. So we're seeing a
shift
or
the
Falkland Islands.
The Falklands. Dude, I mean, for me and Rob here, I'll speak for you, Rob. I'm guessing it's the same for you. But we grew up with Saving Private Ryan as the coolest World War II movie. Like that was
Band
World
of
War
Brothers.
II.
Band of Brothers.
That
show to me was like,
oh god, that was good.
Yeah.
Oh, that was good. You know, and so Medal of Honor was like our experience to live that.
So
you know?
It's wild for me because I didn't even watch Band of Brothers till way later.
Oh.
Well, only because I was so like saturated with World War II stuff, and you have to understand, like a lot of my influencers were like Patton, Dirty Dozen,
right?
Like, so I had plenty of like more campy stuff to like put into the mix to like even out the serious feel. Like this, like after watching Save It Private Ryan and Band of Brothers, you're like, dude, on the PlayStation 1, you had to go a little bit less serious because
you had
there was no way.
There's a lot to capture there. Yeah.
Because you had comedy in the first game a little bit. Like you did mix in some comedy there, and like the way the enemies reacted, the AI was so funny sometimes.
Yeah.
Like they pick up a grenade and they just kind of like toss it back at you. You know,
the original Men of Honor came before those movies and shows anyway. So you obviously were drawing on different inspirations.
It totally hit at the perfect time. Sunil was great about putting some life into the enemies, and I tried to give lots of like I had 2 goals. So here's some like deep core game design stuff. Okay. One of the goals was they had to have like a large library of idols because I wanted the enemies to look like they lived there. Right. So it didn't want it to be popcorn spawn, like Destiny. Like nobody lives in the world of Destiny. They just show up. Right. Like there's nobody like cooking soup and they're like, American, right? Like I wanted every situation to be plausible that those people actually were on patrol or actually living there or something like that. And
are they rendering as you come up upon them, or are they already there?
So if you go back to PlayStation 1, there's only 4 active at a time.
4? Oh wow. Okay. All right.
So I was doing lots of like exit stage left, like enter stage right tricks to make it feel more full.
You were saying in the last episode.
I love that. I think that's so fascinating. Like just to see all the little tricks that you had to do to make it feel more like there was more to the world there. It's just so cool.
We did the same thing in so going to the PlayStation 2, our enemy limit went up to like 12 or 16. But what that meant is I could put allies in the same scene. Right. So when you play through, so I did all of the Arnhem levels, like with Nijmegen Bridge and Arnhem Knights and etc. Actually put a pin in that story. Let me finish with the idols.
Oh yeah. Sorry.
And I'll end it with this. There's two things that made the people feel really alive. And like, I tried to make them have contact with the environment as much as possible. So using cover, putting their hand on something, and that makes the world feel more real because they're touching it. Right. Like, and so because it's first person, it's empty vessel, you have to show the player what their body is doing. So you do it through the enemies. Right. So it's like a sympathetic sort of empathy towards like, oh, that guy's touching a table. It's totally a real table. Right. I mean, it all happens subconsciously. Then my last note on that is, every Medal of Honor I ever worked on levels, there's always a peeing guy.
Oh, really?
Always. Like in the submarine, there's a peeing guy. There's always.
You think of like the first scene in GoldenEye where the guy's in the bathroom stall. I mean, like it's just
If you it's level 2-1, but as you experience it, it would be level 2-3. No, level 1. Yeah, it's level 2-1, which would have been 3-1.
Okay.
So third mission in Medal of Honor Frontline. Actually, there's a peeing guy in the first one too. I just don't remember where he is. Actually,
yeah, it's just the animation of a guy against a wall, right?
There's he's peeing against the wall. There's a smoky guy like in the vents, like But
these are like plausible things that they would be doing, right? I mean, you're on patrol, you got a leak. Well, you're just gonna do it right there. Yeah.
So when you finally get to the submarine in the dock area in Frontline, and so it would have been the first level of the third mission. If like you start kind of near the bow, as you run up, if you know that he's there's a guy in the bathroom and you don't want to pass him, right? Basically, if you open the door, you'll catch him like with his hand on the wall, like like peeing in the toilet.
Incredible. It's like little touches like that make the game so special.
It humanizes it, though.
It does.
That's what makes it feel a little bit more authentic and real.
It gets like there's a really creepy one. So in the Nijmegen and like the row house levels, there's one where you go into a room and there's 3 old ladies, right? And like when you're going through the row houses, and it's fun because like part of production was like, oh man, we don't have money for voices, right?
Okay.
And it actually makes it work better because like the one lady's got like a ladle of soup and she's frozen because she's looking at you like, what are you doing in my house? And then their heads crack, right? And so they just watch you come in the room and they watch you leave and they don't say one word. And it's like
holding their soup.
They're like just holding a soup ladle and they're like, and it's really cool because like if you stay there too long, you break the fantasy. Sure. But it's kind of like when you're watching like The Matrix and Neo goes through someone's house and there's a lady in the kitchen. Like it's that, right? And so there's that moment. There's one in there. I don't remember if we got this one in, but there's a nursery in that level or basically a preschool. And I was like, how ridiculous would it be to put a really scary Nazi on a tiny chair? Like a tiny, like he's chilling and his knees are up by his ears. And it was like how just you come
See,
in
now
and
I have to go back and play this and like
we gotta play
pay attention to these scenes now.
Okay, so Medal of Honor Frontline. Do you guys remember that Michael Giacchino was a composer?
Mm-mm.
Yes.
So
yes,
Michael Giacchino,
that was a big deal. Yes.
Yeah.
I remember even the trailer for that game. Like, I mean, it was just big production. Like, I mean, it just felt like a blockbuster. Yeah.
So, I mean, he'd been doing Alias at the time, I think, a little bit. But
that's why I knew the name.
Scene.
Yeah, that's why I knew his name. Yeah.
And then, I mean, he's done huge stuff since then, right? So, like, I don't even know if he'll return like a message on LinkedIn for me now. Like, he's
too big of a deal.
Yeah.
Like, who's this guy?
I just think he's just in demand, right? I think his kid is now composing.
I think so too. Yeah.
Because I saw Michael Giacchino Jr. on a show recently. I was like, oh my God, I'm old. I was like, I am old. Like his kid is also now composing. So we used to come in, we used to put up a beat chart, right? Because I believe that all games are about rhythm, right?
Rob is a beat chart.
Yeah, and so like it was like Parappa the Rapper, but with Nazis. No, I'm just kidding. No, but it was more like it was like
That's a concept of a game right there.
An image.
That is a game concept, all right.
Oh, the very
punch. It's all in the
punch. Yeah. See,
I'm gonna say something bad. You said it, not me.
Yeah. So, Jimmy Patterson, we're chasing you.
I love when there is voiceovers though in these games. They're ridiculously over the top.
Yeah. So when you get to the third level of in Dutch territory, and it's called Arnhem Knights with a KN. And you meet up with a British group. So that I did all of the previs for that. And the beat chart is basically where are the high moments in the level, where are the low moments, right? So you can't just be at 10 or 11 the whole time. You have to give the player rests, right? And so we would rhythm that out.
That's cool.
By like location, right? And then the other thing, remember I was saying the whole level doesn't load, it streams, right? So like 4 compartments at a time, you would hit a trigger, it would load compartment 5, right? And unload compartment 1. So
that's right. You were talking about this last time.
Yeah, it's like
I remember you were explaining that. Yeah.
It's like imagine like it's kind of like nightmare creatures. Like imagine if you had the character walking from the side, like in Medal of Honor, and there was a flashlight, and you could only see what's in the flashlight. That's what's happening in the levels.
Focusing.
There's only so much is loaded, right? Everything else is unloaded.
So how the hell did you do multiplayer then when you have 2 players
it's one load.
Who are different spots?
It's 4 big compartments put together. Like basically, it's has no
and the size too. I mean, it's
the size of the level is much smaller.
It's the scope is
basically it's what fits in memory.
Okay, all right, yeah. It's what so interesting, and that's why you can't have enemy AI in the first game multiplayer, right? It's just the one player on one player match.
There was no room in the memory for there was only room for 2 players, 2 players in a level and the weapons. Working within the constraints you had to be very creative, but also like your shipped product was so damn entertaining in the end. Like just the storytelling. I remember like the V2 rocket. I still remember like vividly to this day, just those climactic moments with the soundtrack. That first game blew my mind, man. So I did like over 90% of the scripting in the first PlayStation game. And then in the second one, I probably did closer to 50 or 60%. And I was like, I didn't sleep.
Yeah.
I was like, we're like if it means that I have to do it myself, I'll just do it. Right.
Wow.
One of the so we did these beat charts, right?
Okay.
And so you had the rhythms of the levels. And when we got to Arnhem Knights, I was having meetings with Michael Giacchino when he was trying to figure out how to write music for this. By the way, because everything was streaming, he actually wrote all of the soundtrack in loops according to where things would load in and out.
Wow.
So that's why I had to have like an intensity chart, like a beat chart for that, so that he could say, oh, here's a level 5 loop, here's a level 6 loop, and it all had to blend.
Okay.
So that you never heard it, like you never heard a loop not mesh or mix with the next loop. Right.
Okay, so you had specific blending tracks to make it sound very smooth.
Kind of
transition. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like if we were in a transitional space, it would go into like something that could blend either direction, and then basically the intensity could change when you come out of that transition track. So there was like, let's say track 1 was like super malleable or accepting of like whatever. So you would be like, oh, play track 3 here, then play track 1, then play track 4, 5, 1. Right? You would have this, like he designed it in a way so that he had these like safe spots to go, where it was like it was just the bare theme, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And so
that's interesting.
but like when we got to Arnhem Knights, that's the one with the falsetto or the soprano kid, like like the super high voice, and it's very angelic. He said, hey, this is super high action. What do you think about if we go super high contrast here and do something really beautiful on top of this battle scene? And I looked and I said, dude, I'm all for it. Let's do it. Because one of the things, like one of the early lessons for me was that contrast is how you feel things, right? In games. So like you basically have to like, that's why you can't be at high intensity the whole time. It's not really, it's both fatigue, but it's also, you need the contrast. So you don't know how fucked up things are until you know how good things are, right? So like,
Yes.
this is how calm it can get. This is a 2. This is how calm it can get. This is a 3. So we bring you back to compare those things. It's like Terry Tate mind game.
I was going to say
a sliding scale.
You're talking about the psychological elements now. You know,
Right.
how the player feels, the emotions that they're feeling.
Right. And then
Yes.
also, well, there's also the rule of 7s, which is like about cognitive overload. So like, I didn't need more than 4 enemies active at a time most of the time, because you
stress
could
out
only
the player.
your brain can only hold so many individual objects as individual things, right? Like as soon as you have like, it's like, all right, here, I'll give you the quick rule of 7s, and then you can kind of look around for yourself. Tetris, 7 shapes and colors. Phone numbers, 7 numbers. License plates, 7 digits. Bust a move, 7 colored balls. So 7 is the exact amount of individual objects you can hold in your brain. It doesn't mean that you can't take 8. Once 8 happens, you try to find a group. So your brain is
So your brain can
optimizing.
process it better. Yeah.
Right.
It's
Your brain
octaves.
is optimizing.
Octaves. It is
octaves.
in a musical
Octaves
octave
are
scale.
7,
There's
right?
7, and you hit the 8th, and you're on a new octave,
You come back again.
and you're in a group now. That's
You'll
right,
start to see the 7 pattern everywhere.
dude.
Like, yeah.
Whoa.
So the 7 pattern goes.
I know
is like,
7s.
I know 7s. Yeah. The rule of 7s is like, not only is it a cool prime number and it's a great thing to roll in craps, it's like it is the limit of cognitive load. So like, if you want to have an effective meeting, it's 6 people where everybody interacts. As soon as you hit like 7,
That's it.
then it turns into like 1 leader, somebody hides out. Right.
Right. You have to swap out.
You have to start like, it feels like less organic. So a 6-person table is perfect for conversation.
Cognitive Load is the name of Rob and I's future death metal band as well.
Cognitive load is what I did this morning in the bathroom.
That's when I'm Instagram reeling. Yeah.
That's a good name for a YouTube channel too.
Yeah, that's
Cognitive.
right,
I love
load.
that. Cognitive Load. It can it can attract all kinds of viewers. Okay, I had one other question though. How was Mr. Spielberg feeling about the game when it shipped? Like, was it as successful as he expected?
It did. Yes and no. Like basically, we needed like a grand slam, but we got a home run. So it did well.
Nice.
It did good.
Okay,
but it didn't. It didn't break any records. The first one. I also remember the first Medal of Honor came out, and I think people were like, "What?" Right? It was so different.
I feel like Frontline was the big one for you guys.
Frontline was the big one for us,
Yeah,
but that was also
big
like a bigger investment. Frontline is the one that got us bought by EA. Like
I was going to say, like, I was looking at your work history because you're at DreamWorks.
And then it turns into EA.
You do small soldiers in between these games, and then you go to EA.
Yeah, where did it turn into?
So you only did Medal of Honor and
Arts.
Small Soldiers at DreamWorks?
Yeah, Small Soldiers Squad Commander was one of the first things I did. It was an RTS for the Small Soldiers movie. And so the mechanics for that were you got a toy box, and as you went around and collected toys, you could spawn new soldiers out of the toy box.
Fun. Okay.
And we did a bunch of like, all the backgrounds were like a convenience store and a kid's bedroom and like, that. And then Trespasser was before Medal of Honor as well.
Okay, and that was a DreamWorks title. Okay.
Yeah, that was a DreamWorks title.
But that didn't ship, right? Was that
No,
canceled?
it shipped. Oh, it got.
it did?
It came out. It had a world record for most returned game in the first week.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Right. And if anybody is confused by the context here, we actually covered Trespasser a bunch in the last episode. So I'm going to link that in the description. If you want to hear more dev stories about Medal of Honor as well, that'll be in the description. And you also talked about Darksiders, so we can.
Yeah, we talked about Darksiders back in the other episode too. That was when I moved more towards publishing. Dude, thanks for throwing up some Small Soldiers Squad Commander, man. That was some crazy.
Yeah.
It's a blast from the past.
I learned so much doing that project. That's, by the way, Small Soldier Squad Commander is the only project I've ever been on, ever, in 30 plus years of making games, that we came in early and under budget by a week and a half.
Nice. That never happens.
Like we were Gold Master a week and a half early.
Wow.
Like, it was wild. And when I say Gold Master, so just to give everybody context, back in the day when you had physical discs, you had a thing called Gold Master, which was, we think this is bug free and ready to print. right?
Oh, okay.
And so Goldmaster was like, this is the one. It's bug free. Send it to the printing press, and then it's good to go. And you would say like you would have gone through release candidates before that, and so Goldmaster is the first one where everybody signed off. It was never ever the first one that passes, but you had to try, right? So you're like, this is Goldmaster, and then you would beat the out of it for like 2 days, and then you're like, nope. Right?
Nope, Chuck Testa.
Nope. Oh, did I?
Yeah, that's where like the whole the thing came from, like going gold or gone gold.
Going gold.
Yeah,
yeah. Like the initial, like the release cadence of like Goldmaster.
Yes.
And then you would send that Goldmaster for consoles. You would send it to Sony or Microsoft or Nintendo, and then they would take that and then they would manufacture the hardware, which was a scam.
Right.
and
It's funny because the industry is so different today. I mean, the different avenues that you have today.
Think about it this way, like, and part of why like EA was dominant in the 90s, right?
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Like dominant.
Yes.
Like nobody could touch EA. Activision was a close-ish second, but Madden was really like, it wasn't until Tony Hawk that I think EA would like sweat a bullet, right? Like,
okay, right.
Yeah, because they basically, Activision made good games. In fact, I loved a lot of Activision games. I-76, Mech Warrior, like there was some really good stuff. And then Tony Hawk was the first time that like I think like they had a runaway like crazy like thing. And the first time that I think EA was like, oh, we better make a game called Skate.
The N64 one though, the soundtrack completely compromised, I gotta say. But it's a great game.
Well, because like on the PlayStation, what you hear on the PlayStation is actually the music tracks because you could stream the music. So it's like we're playing a CD. And so on cartridge,
it's on a loop.
Yeah, on a ROM, you have to compress the hell out of it just to get it to fit.
Yeah,
right?
but so you had like the same four verse or the same one verse from Goldfinger just on repeat.
Goldfinger, Goldfinger, like Goldfinger,
like the Superman song. Yeah.
So EA was super dominant because they had a stranglehold on the physical distribution. Now that it's digital distribution, that's why you're not seeing them be as dominant.
So what'd you do at EA then while you were there? You did Frontline.
Well, more Medal of Honor, and then I tried to get off of Medal of Honor like every year.
You were trying to get out of it?
Yeah, because I was like, I never considered myself a first-person shooter designer.
Oh, really?
No, like that was like.
Well, you probably also wanted to do something different.
I wanted to do something
I've
different.
done this, and I'm going to do something different. Yeah.
Well, I even somebody came to me with a pitch, and it was like, hey, we should do French Resistance like Underground, except why don't we do it first? Like, why don't we do it tune shaded and third person? And do like a spy game, right? And I was like, I'm in for it. And I pitched it.
That sounds awesome.
And then nobody wanted to do it.
They didn't want to do it. They wanted more of the same. So they did Rising Sun, which you then had to do on the GameCube, which then was interesting.
GameCube and whatever the PlayStation, Xbox equivalents were at the time.
Xbox, yeah.
There was supposed to be a second Rising Sun. We wrote the story for the second game. It was two brothers. So it was going to be two brothers in the Pacific. And so the first game ends with you. It wasn't supposed to end with you rescuing your brother. It was supposed to end with, it was supposed to be a brother switch off. Like you were going to find Yamashita's gold in the second one. And, it was like first one brother and then the second brother. So Rising Sun 1 was I forget his name, Billy Madison. And then the second one, which was like Happy Gilmore, whatever. Right. Awesome. Like it was just like it was supposed to work that way. And then basically like, Pacific Theater is just so hard to sell, even on PC. Like it's just, then people don't think of World War II. When they think of World War II in the Pacific, they think of airplanes and ships and,
like Pearl Harbor kind of thing.
Yeah, Pearl Harbor,
But it was, it was this whole other part of the war that isn't talked about as much, and
it just isn't, like Black Sheep Squadron, like Flags of Our Fathers. Like there's a lot of really great stories there. It just doesn't resonate the same as the European theater,
which is why European Assault came next.
Yeah, we went back to the European theater for that one. Like they basically nixed Rising Sun 2 and then went for we're like and then we just went to the formula and came up with European Assault, and I was like, I'm checked out. Like, who's got the, like, let's go. A sabbatical's coming up. I'm taking off, and then it's sometime after that, I was like, late. It was a rough time in my life. So
I'm sorry, man.
Not rough.
Infiltrator 2 though, that was cool.
Infiltrator 2 was cool. It was totally cool. It's little bright spots. I still had a good time. There was a little puffer fish in the aquarium at the ELA prison building that was hyper attentive to people standing next to the next to the thing.
Did you spend some time in prison that year? Like what was the bad years? Okay.
We moved from the Dreamworks building. Well, we combined Westwood Studios, both the Irvine studio and the Command and Conquer guys, right? So we took,
okay, nice.
Like they merged studios, put us all in a big building. And the reason I call it the prison building is actually just visual. It's just like, it's super brutalist architecture. It's like super plain. And so it's like, if there were no windows, it would have been like, what is it? Like Southern California Edison building or what's going on? Like, so we moved facilities and, it was like a letdown for me because like we had a really cool building before.
Well, it's almost like it's like a metaphorical, like for where you felt you were in your game career. It seems like more bland walls.
Yeah.
What am I doing here? Totally.
Well, so I was really like, I really wanted to do third person action or platformers or actually, I have a soft spot in my heart for turn-based tactics games.
Nice,
right? Like two of my favorite games of all time is XCOM, right? And not every iteration of it, but at least the first one. And then Syndicate also, but that's not turn-based. Syndicate was awesome. Like,
but then they were like, nope, do Medal of Honor for PSP now.
Yeah. There, like, I think we did do a PSP version.
Was it just the original? I actually haven't played this one yet. I'm looking at it now.
I don't remember.
It might the original on Frontline? PSP?
No, I don't know. Yeah,
2009. It says. I don't know.
The other turn-based game that I really love is Jagged Alliance. Jagged Alliance 2. Jagged Alliance 2 was amazing.
Great.
Yeah. So amazing. So Jagged Alliance was super fun for me. So anyway, then from there, I went and consulted in Hollywood for a bit, did a lot of vaporware, worked on something that I think became Falling Skies. The TV show, Falling Skies, about the aliens and shit. Like I worked on something that I think got like repurposed into that.
That's really cool.
And then at some point I started a little mobile company called Tarver Games, and we did, we actually did a location, like a geolocated level generator, so you could make a level anywhere you went. Like I wish I'd have stuck to that because I think I could have got investment to actually compete with Niantic, but like we just didn't have the Rolodex that they had.
Was that
we were in the wrong city? Ghost Attack.
Yeah, Ghost Attack. Yeah. And then the other one, the Falling Skies, the Noah Wyle TV series. It looks like I gotta watch this too.
That's right. And then I went to go work on Homefront. And then I went into THQ, and then the rest of the career is like just less interesting to like rattle things off.
To talk about.
There's less dev going on after that.
Because you're switching to something called a principal designer and a single player lead, which I guess.
Those are just like thank you credits.
Oh, really? Okay.
Well, not thank you credits, but like I came in to help with stuff, and they're both thank you credits and credits.
Okay. Yeah. Like thank you, but you.
Yeah, exactly. Like thanks for helping out. But
did you like Homefront personally?
Yeah, I did. I mean, it's.
I actually played that game. Yeah, it's actually the concept was really good. It's just that, I mean, it needed a little more time in the oven. That's all it was.
It needed another like 6 months.
Oh, okay, It got a 7 out of 10.
You could feel that it was like a little bit rough around the edges, but it was such a cool idea.
Needed it to be a 90.
Oh, okay.
And the best we could do was 70 in the time.
70. Right. Okay, and the time allowed, that's the whole thing. As more you get in the 2010s, it's like the time allowed.
So when I was at THQ, I did what I called firefighting, right?
Okay.
And by firefighting,
putting out fires.
Yeah, I was basically like the parachute jumper on a forest fire crew that they would drop into the hot to put stuff out. And so like Homefront was, I mean, they weren't in deadly trouble, but they didn't have a lot of time left. And, they hired a couple of XEA people, including me, who are like, oh, we know how to ship on the quarter. You know what I mean?
No.
Like
Yeah,
I went to
yeah.
EA finishing school. I know how to do this. And
Right.
so they dropped me off, and then we basically, so we finished that. And then, I spent 3 months in Vancouver working with Relic on Space Marine 1. And then, I did a bunch of firefighting action.
Space Marine's a great game.
Yeah.
So-
So it was a fun one.
I have a question for you, Chris. What was like the most intense or worst day of your life as a developer? Do you have like a specific example of like, like you were really in the boiling plate and you had to like figure out it sounds like a job interview. I don't know why I'm saying this, but
So
I'm curious.
Good question, though.
Yeah.
I don't know that there was a worst day in the way that you're talking about it, but I can give you some notables. Like,
Okay.
I did 72 hours without sleep once.
Oh, wow.
But the thing is I knew I was about to do 72 hours without sleep. So I actually kind of prepped for it. So I stopped drinking caffeine. I only drank water. Because like I didn't want any caffeine crashes.
Right.
So I didn't want the spike. So basically I switched to just water. I basically took it like it was like I was some sort of weird Buddhist monk, right? Like I was like, only drink water, only eat so many carbs.
Right.
And like my adrenaline was popped for like 3 days straight. Like, it was like that kind of thing. I don't know. I spent way too much time sleeping under my desk. So that's not a singular day, but it's just one of those things where I just spent a lot of time that, honestly, I just didn't have to be there, but it was like, I loved what I did. Right.
Yeah. You're in it to win it. What game was the 72-hour stretch for?
Frontline.
Of course. Yeah. It's your baby. Yeah.
Yep.
Makes sense. Yeah.
So, when you go back and play that, if you go back and play it,
I will.
There's the level with the truck chase.
Okay.
Right? Like you get it, like you sabotage a bunch of cars and then you get in a truck and that's on a rail for a while. And then you get to the pub and the pub is like full of like Chuck E. Cheese marionettes, right? You have to like disguise your way through the pub, which almost got cut, by the way. It's fucking awesome. When you play the pub, you will see that it is like an early version of like an in-game, like playable cutscene.
Oh,
but like it's one of the first times that was done in that way. Like there's no real gameplay in that room. It's more about the ambiance and
it's the vibe.
Around. Okay,
yeah.
That was made a little bit separately. Everything that led up to that, the car chase, the sabotaging the cars, actually building the level. There's a guy, his name's Eric Church. We didn't have that level like 2 months out from Goldmaster. We built it in 2 weeks. Because we were so good with the tools by then. He and I said, we need another level. Like everybody get the fuck out of my office for like 90 minutes. We'll propose a plan. Right.
Wow.
And then like he and I went to the whiteboard. Which like we could do X, this, that, and the other thing. And then we split the work and he and I built it in under 2 weeks. Like the whole, like from head scratch to ship.
What was the average before this? Like when you were early on in the development?
Like 2 months.
2 months for a level. Okay.
Yeah. Well, that included like all the phases. Like you gray box it first. There's no textures, just to prove the spaces. Right.
Wow.
Once you gray box it, then you give it to art to art it up. But while they're arting it up, you're doing all the scripting. Right. Wow. Okay. And so you started running in parallel, and then it would start to get arted, and then you would do like third phase, which was polish, and you go back and like tighten up all the scripting. And like the scripting language at the time was like a kind of a C-like Java-esque proprietary language. And so you had to do everything in like, Notepad, right? Like I was writing text scripts and once a decade, I break a game build by omitting a comma. So like I broke a build there by like not putting a comma, and then like
that's all it takes.
It's like the compiler breaks, right? So, where was the most recent one? I did it most recently at GenVid, and I think I broke a build on Homefront. Each time it's missing a comma. One comma.
You don't need it. You don't need commas. We don't.
No. Dude, that was a stressful day. That may have been my worst day.
See, there you go. So tell me, how embarrassing was that for you?
Going through this process,
let's step through your. Yeah. What's that like?
Embarrassing.
What's this
because
like?
I woke up cocky. Because I went to bed at 4 a.m. Right.
Okay.
Or like 5. Or I take that back. I went to bed at more like 7 a.m. Right. I was working 3 levels at a time. Like I was triple tasking, and then like all night, like drinking free soda, getting fat, and like, you know, munching on like leftovers and stuff.
Sounds
and
like
then,
a dream.
But just hammering on levels. Like I'm cocky as because I'm like, dude, we're so in the clear. This next build is going to be dope, right? Actually, that was the deadline. I think the deadline was like 3 or 4 a.m. So like I had to get it in before the robot built the new disc, right? So back in those days, remember, we had to burn all our own discs for development. Like you had to test it on disk. So a robot would basically cut off all check-ins, like check it, burn a disc, and then it would replicate whatever 60 discs, right? At like whatever,
no pressure,
at like $2 a disc or something like that, right? Okay. So basically, you burn through like $100 in discs. They wake me up on the couch, like, you know, whatever, 9 a.m. Somebody comes in, they're like, dude, the build's broken, and I'm like, not my problem, dude. I'm the and then go back to sleep. They like, because I'm like, there's nothing that I was doing last night that could have broken the build, right?
Right.
Like there's zero chance. Like it has to be some like code up, because it was running great on my machine. I was testing all my work, right? But on my machine, I was not recompiling all the scripts, right? Because I didn't have access to the compiler. It was just accepting the fact that it was good, right? And then it would run. Right. So basically I was like, what ifs? Went back to sleep. 30 minutes later, somebody comes in. They're like, Cross, it's your fault. And I was like, oh. And then like in about 10 seconds, my brain goes, there has to be a comma missing. Right. I was like, it has to be. But
it's my decade routine.
Yeah. Well, this is one of the first times I did it. And then one of the engineers said, okay, let's go check that. And it was like, here's the error. It's a compile error in scripts. And I said, it is a comma. And so here's the problem with working on 3 levels in the night. I must have touched like 110 scripts. Right.
Okay.
Like basically there was like, each one is a different text file. So I had to like backtrack through them, looking for not looking for an error, looking for something that's missing, which is way harder on the eyes. Right.
Yeah.
Like there's no way to do it.
Yeah, because it's one thing you're looking for something to remove. You're looking for the spot where it needs to be added.
Right.
That's hard. Yeah.
What I was searching for was negative space, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Like basically the omission of a comma. And so
that sounds very complicated. Yeah.
It wasn't that bad because I was a pretty decent note taker for myself at the time, and I knew all of the that I touched, and I had like build notes, and I was like, you know what? About like 15, 20 minutes in, I was like, you know what? I know which file it is. I know exactly which one. Like, it's this one. And I was like,
pulled it up. You saw your comma.
And I was like, there it is. It's missing. And the fix is literally like
one key.
Yeah. Control S, right? Control S. And then you click the check it in button, right? Like the fix is literally less than 10 seconds, but I must have burned. If you include everybody's salaries, like, you know, imagine a team of 60 running.
And then all the discs that are useless too, because they have a bad build on it.
Exactly. And so like I must have burned like, it must have been a $5,000 morning. Right? Like something like that. Like,
man, that is like,
what are you going to do? That stuff happens. Like,
of course.
It's like,
that's 10 PS5s.
I didn't have any carry away embarrassment or it was bad times or anything like that. Like it was basically a day of everybody ribbing me.
Okay. All right. That's fair. You had a good team, right? Like you got along with your team. You didn't have any awesome. Big throughout your career. You haven't really been fights and drama like in the movie scenes.
There's maybe 3 POS guys.
Okay.
Right. And not piece of shit, but punch on sight.
Oh, punch on sites. Yeah.
Punch on site. Like there's like there's maybe 3.
There's always got to be at least 1 or 2 of those kind of people.
In the middle, there's like, I like you well enough. We can go hang out and have dinner, but I'm not working with you again. There's plenty of that. Right. Sure, but I have no animosity towards them. Right. Okay. It's just more preference. But there's definitely like 2 or 3 punch on site dudes.
What games were these dudes on?
Well, one was on Trespasser.
Yeah.
But it was a wholly different vibe. It might only be like 2 guys. Like over the years, I've softened quite a bit. I think they may have come back up above the line,
Really? It's another they're more like kind of like light slap on site. SOS.
Yeah, or even like I'm old and I don't give a anymore. So
I don't care anymore. Like, have a cookie. Yeah, like, hey,
right,
when you were that.
Yeah.
And
you're the guy that gets people to work for them.
Oh no.
And then don't do anything. Like, So
yeah.
It's like, there's 2 things that I could never stand was like when I was a tester on Chaos Island, there was a guy, his name's John Paquette. He's like the lead writer or the head writer over at Insomniac now. Man, we used to compete.
Yeah.
It was literally like I would watch the bug database and I was like, I have to get more Sev 1 bugs than John Paquette. And we had the most competitive office in the building for like 4 months. Like it was literally like
fun.
It was totally fun. Like I would show up and I was like, it was like the races. We'd show up at like starting times 10 a.m. Boom, we're both sitting at our desk. Like, and we would go and like, like we had our own different techniques and strategies, and we would, compete to see who got the most like severe bugs or whatever.
That's incredible.
It was pretty wild.
Okay,
Yeah.
so just to wrap up your work history, you said you're doing less of the main hands-on developing as you go along here, but then you did Warhammer 40K in 2011. Was that like a good experience? Because you're a creative director there.
The Space
Marine. That's right.
Yeah, that was one of my firefighting jobs. Like basically the team was like having internal strife. And Uncle Chris had to come up.
You had to come in.
Yeah,
I
lived in Vancouver for 3 months. So basically I went up. But the fix was like there were some ex-Medal of Honor guys on this team. The fix for this was just like changing the chemistry.
Okay.
I was like, dude. And I did one day where I put the game up on screen and I go, hey, dude, you and I have worked together. Where's my Vista? Right? And I'm like, you know what this is. You don't need me to tell you this. I was like, there's so many like dollar bills on the floor that are not in the build that you could just pick up really easily. Why don't we do all that first? And it just became one of those things that like,
that's great.
Most of the problems in games, so making games is actually easy. It's managing people that's hard.
It always is.
It's always
I can understand it. Yeah.
So like once you can get to the point where you're making task lists, then everything's just a problem to solve, right? But the rubber meets the road when you're like, oh, I think we solve it this way, and then the other person's like, no, that problem's like this. Let's solve it this way, right? Or like, oh, I think it needs to be red, and you're like, oh, it needs to be blue, and like. Some things are trivial, some things are bigger, but it's the people stuff that makes it hard.
Right.
So like Space Marine, there was nothing wrong with all of the individuals on Space Marine. Like nobody was at fault, right? It just was dysfunctional. And so all I really had to do was come up and change the chemistry a little bit. I mean, we had to bench a couple people, but it was like, like I had to change the dynamic, right? And so it wasn't like, from my POV, it wasn't punitive in a like you're f***ing up, go sit on a bench kind of way. It was more like you're actually a communication stopper. Like I don't know what you're gonna do. Like I'm not your boss, but you need to move out of the way, right?
Okay.
And so like there was some of that going on, and then there was also a little bit of process of like, hey, you're jumping in at the wrong time. Back off. Let John finish his work. When he's done with his work, then we'll review it, right? And so at some point, like, like my last month there was like, I was just clocking in and clocking out, right?
Yeah.
And doing meetings and reviews and stuff. And it was like, not that hard, not that difficult.
The game was well on its way and it got shipped and it landed on PC
great.
and
dude, this game was super
PS3.
fun.
This game was awesome. When they came out with the sequel finally after
oh my god,
like a decade.
Recently. Yeah.
I gotta go look at the credits and see if any of the OG Space Marine guys are on too.
But
that'd be cool.
This is a fun game. This is just a blast to play.
I
know I'm not even like into the Warhammer universe, but it's just fun.
Yeah.
Dude,
I've heard that.
This is probably the game that got me more into the Warhammer universe.
Interesting.
Like I love the idea of Warhammer, but the barrier of entry, like I love all the lore and the weird British weirdness and like, you know, the super chunky armor, which is really great for a figurine, but in motion, it
it looks ridiculous. It's so ridiculous looking. Like,
It's wonky.
Right, but that's kind of the appeal. Right?
Yeah,
it's like HR Puff and stuff or something. It's so ridiculous that it's normal.
Perfect.
Right.
Well, and then speaking of Puff and stuff, then you moved on to Family Guy right after this. Back to
I did Family Guy, the multiverse stuff, which third-person shooter. You know, a Heavy Iron, which is where I'm, you know, that's where my day job is right now, right? And so
nice.
Yeah, I mean, just help them ship that. It's a third-person shooter. It was kind of wild to run around levels as Stewie, right? Or like, it's super clean cartoon look, and so like the feeling of space is different, right? Because like it's simpler on the eyes. It's like it was a fun game to work on. Although I do have to say the Fuzzy Door company, which is the Family Guy company, was like they were challenging because like they didn't make games. So we had to cross the jargon barrier, right?
Okay, so they wanted a Family Guy licensed game. Yeah. And okay. Yep. And then you did, you did Nexon, you did Freelance, you did Princess Hermit.
Yeah. Princess Hermit is still my personal LLC.
That's your personal LLC. Okay, nice.
Yeah, it's Princess, which is my wife, and Hermit, which is me. So it's Princess Hermit.
That's perfect.
Yeah. Originally, I wanted to do like Princess Peach and a Hermit or whatever, but like, whatever. It just got weird.
Yeah. You didn't want to go too meta with it. Yeah. And then like your last big AAA one on here is Metro Last Light. And then
with 4A.
Yeah.
So Metro. Wait, did you guys ever play World of Tanks?
A little bit. Yeah.
Okay. So games that come out of like post Cold War Eastern Bloc countries, Russia, Ukraine, like Poland, like there's a worldview that shows up in the games. It's just a little bit darker. It's very not Disneyland, but also they're hyper, like most engineers from that area of the world are hyper smart, but they build a lot of from scratch.
Yeah.
But only because the systems they design are hyper complex, right? So OG World of Tanks, like they're doing so much in the bullet physics and deflection and armor calculations that's part of kind of what makes this game, right? Like, you know, it's a shooter for old people, but it's like there's like the actual systems at work here are very complex. Okay, Metro Last Light, hyper smart team, but definitely there were times I was like, you know what? I just have to accept the fact that they're not going to do things the way that I would expect this to be done, because I'm basically going to give them the, you know, Model T assembly line version, and they're building a custom hot rod, right? Like
they're a overseas studio, right?
Yeah. They were in Ukraine, and then as soon as the Little Green Men invaded Crimea, they moved to Malta.
Okay.
Like they saw that coming early. They're like, we're out, and then they had an opportunity.
Probably smart, for the best.
But
I'm assuming like the development, the way they approached game design was probably different than what you were used to or what you saw in the US.
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, the thing that the most Western markets don't know is Metro is based on a book. There's a book series, right? Kind of like The Witcher's based on a book. Right. It was like a similar thing. So Metro was basically post-apocalyptic, you know, Russian subway stuff, right? And so, this level. Yeah. Like, but you'll see like this, dude, that's not like just a shotgun. That's a Metro shotgun. That thing's got like 100 moving parts. And like, you know, if one piece fails, the whole thing fucking fails. Right. Like it's
incredible.
Built like it's super incredible. Like if it were like a Western dev, I would have had them punt on all this. Been like, no, you're gonna just bake it like the normal way. But I was like, there's no way you're gonna catch all the bugs. But with this team, I was like, this is how they build stuff. You just got to embrace what they know and what they do. And pretty much, I'm thankful to get a credit on this because they didn't need me to do much.
Okay,
right.
Yeah,
it was mostly like clear the way for them to build.
Okay, you're more on the
give them some
business side.
feedback here and there.
Yeah.
Oh man, bad trip mine placement. It didn't even go off when the monster
Didn't go
showed
off. Oh. Okay,
Rookie,
another game I have
rookie
to play.
maneuver.
See, I'm so Medal of Honor heavy on your history.
Yeah.
I got to play these other games.
Yeah.
I had one last question for you, actually, about
sure.
Medal of, if you don't mind if I shoehorn this one in, because I'm really excited to ask about it.
Of course.
So there's a glitch. There's a glitch you were talking about in your Brain Arcade episode about Frontline, where if you look at the ground, you can beat the entire game without ever fighting the enemies.
Yeah.
What the hell?
Okay. So that happened after an optimization pass in the last couple months.
Okay.
So basically somebody was like, oh, if you're not looking at the enemies, there's no reason for them to animate.
Right. Do speedrunners now take advantage of this?
I don't think anybody knows about it, but there might be a few people that know about it, but
Us too.
the thing is you naturally do not want to,
this.
you naturally don't play the game that way, right?
Right.
Like you
Wouldn't
want to
think
have
to.
fun.
Right. You look up, you shoot stuff.
All right. I'll tell you,
Usually you're
I'll tell
not
you what.
looking at the ground while you're walking through the level.
I'm going to beat this game now.
There are places where you have to look up, right? Like D-Day, you have to fire for cover. There are some like missions where you have to eliminate some people.
Sure.
But you could plan that out and memorize the levels, and you would still take damage because it just says they don't animate. It doesn't mean they stop thinking.
Okay.
Right. So you would get hit when you cross in front of their rifle.
But otherwise, okay.
Yeah. If they're aimed and ready to fire and they're frozen there and you happen to move in front of them, you'll get hit.
But,
right.
So
but if you start out looking down at the ground, they don't always start ready.
Oh, okay. Right? So do you have to look directly down at the ground and then memorize the level
They have
paths?
to not be on screen.
Okay, so you can look maybe kind of up to see enough of what's going on,
right? But
as long as you're not seeing legs or anything,
any part on screen.
Any part of them.
Yeah, you have to.
So you look down.
Look down.
Okay, memorize the level or map it out for yourself.
Yeah, you could be like 5 to 10 degrees forward, right? So you can kind of see a little bit of where you're going. I think I could still do it from memory. Like just talking to you guys tonight, I'm like, oh, holy. Like you guys are like accessing memory banks that have been like cobwebbed over, and like I think I could do it. It wouldn't be fast the first time, but my first trial run would be where I figure out exactly which places I have to look up.
Well, there's like that easy games or not easy games done quick. There's the games done.
Games done quick. Yeah,
games done quick thing. Like somebody could bring this in,
do that,
and do this. And I just wonder if it's a new game the speedrunning community would pick up on.
So my fastest run through the whole game, I would sprint and only finish objectives. By the way, that was part of like the design of the game, was that it wasn't there's only one kill objective in any of the games that I had like direct design over, and that was Sturmgeist in when you steal a Home 9 at the end of Frontline. Everything else is like the enemies are there as obstacles, not as an objective, right?
Okay, yeah.
Like
you don't want
basically the mission is blow up Railgun Greta.
Right.
Are there guys in the way? Yeah, but can you stealth past them? You can. So like that makes it even easier to if you figure out this bug that you could just go to the objectives, finish them, and move on.
Right. It's not like there's like a boss fight, where you had to confront an enemy kind of thing.
There's a couple places where like you have to kill a tank, and the tank is okay because it's mechanical, but there's we removed most of the assassination missions. You get into a boss fight with Sturmgeist, but everything else is about some sort of mechanical objective, right? Like sabotage the thing, get to this thing, disguise over here, right? And like
it's almost a non-violent game at that point.
It was intended to be that way. Yeah, that like basically I wanted there to always be a clever, stealthy way through because it's supposed to be a spy game, right?
Okay,
and it wasn't about body count. It was not. It was intentionally not encouraging body count.
Okay. Yeah.
Right. Like, yeah, the core mechanic was shooting, and you could get really good at it. But if you didn't want to shoot some people, you didn't necessarily have to. Now, there are places where there's a choke point. You cannot get by without shooting the guy. Right. Okay. But they're not an objective.
Well, unless you're looking at your shoes.
Unless you're looking at your shoes, and then you can nudge them.
Yeah.
You can nudge them out of the way.
Rob, are you going to take on the challenge?
I was just imagining you taking on the challenge.
Oh, okay.
You have like a wall board of just the notes, and you're pinning things.
I need to go 5 steps
you have
north
to take.
And then,
Oh my God. I should memorize a level and be your co-pilot.
Yeah, that would be fun. That would be a fun stream. We could do a stream like that.
But I'm like, okay, like 5 more steps. Like it'll be like rally driving. I'm like,
yeah, I was just thinking like Sega Rally.
Left.
Yeah. Like, right turn. Like, look up, hit the button. Hit the button.
All right, that sounds. We gotta have you back on, Chris. We've barely scratched the surface, and we're almost 2 hours in here.
For sure.
Oh my God.
Surface. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Too much time. Well, not too much time, but we spent a lot. There were a lot of side routes off of my career.
It was fun though. Like it's fun, and like this will be for those people because there are a lot of people who reached out after the episode. Like, hey, I really wish we could have heard more from Chris. I really wanted a deep dive on those stories.
That's
I'm like,
awesome.
Yeah, let's do it.
Well, some of this is going to show up in my podcast too. Because like we hit this place where I'm like, all right, it's like, have you seen the Denzel Washington clip? Like in your first part of your life you learn, your second part of your life you earn, and then in the last part of your life you return, right?
You returned.
Like, I've entered into the return part of my life, whereas like
that's fun.
Like, well, you have to remember, I spent 20 years under hard NDAs.
Right.
These stories didn't surface. There were some stories we told because press, like, tidbits and over beers with friends at other studios. Right. Like, that stuff happened, but like, you didn't really go around. Like, we didn't have podcasting in my day. What is this esports streaming? What is new modern?
Well, it's like finding out about like all the things that happened like at Atari and like all these things that you're learning about more so now than you know about all this stuff back in the day. So
here's the other thing though, is our industry has failed like 2 generations of game designers in that we don't have institutional knowledge that we're sharing back. Like there are some methods and some educational things are more relevant, but there is no like people move around so much. It's not like, hey, go talk to the old sage in the cave. He'll tell you how to fix this problem, right? Like people have been aged out like systemically by the larger companies because they get expensive, and it just like essentially what I'm seeing now is people are solving the same problems I solved in the 90s, right?
Right.
Again and again and again. And in fact, some of my solutions aren't relevant anymore, but there are other things from a design POV that I'm like, you just have to change your thinking. Let me show you a couple things, right? And so I'm trying to return that back, not because there's another thing that happened with age is like, there's no one way to teach game design and there's no one school of thought. There are common things that people figure out for themselves, but like all I can do is present the way that I think and the way I did it. And it's like your salad bar. Take what you want, leave the rest.
Whatever you want to do.
Full circle back to Big Trouble in Little China.
Right. So, Big Trouble, if anyone listening to the podcast, before the episode, we were talking about Big Trouble in Little China, and that's Chris's background today.
Yeah.
And it all comes back. And you got the shirt.
Yes.
And I got to bring it all back with the salad bar line.
Oh, that's perfect. So, that is so perfect.
Anyway, that's what Brain Arcade is, but also I like golf. I don't want to do like hardcore dev anymore in the way that it's being done like in the old ways. It's not as fun for me. Like I'm going to build a robot army using AI and build like crazy.
Hell yeah.
Like,
get those models going.
Oh my God. Like Blind Samurai third-person action game, Blind Samurai Fishing, which was actually in the same world as Blind Samurai. I'm going to build those 2 games. I'm going to build Space Marines versus Cthulhu, working title. I'm going to build that game starts with you're in a heated battle and then everybody on the other side disappears because they made a deal with the old gods, right? And then that game ends with a space battle between like the Enterprise and Cthulhu, except he's like 100 times the size. It's going to be amazing.
These are the drawings that I would draw when I was like,
oh my God,
years old.
Dude, are you
brought to life?
Totally. Where you're like, I could draw the Enterprise because it's a circle, 2 lines.
I did the Klingon ships. And
3 lines.
Crazy things like with AI, you can actually like bring those concepts you have in your head.
Oh yeah.
To life. Well, I mean, it's unreal how well it can capture some of that. It's just wow.
Yeah, it's unreal.
My problem. So the way I used to do it before is like, this is why I learned Photoshop. Is I would bring comps in, and build like Photoshop comps, And that would be like, here's the idea, give it to a real artist, right?
Right.
I can skip that step now and get actually way closer by prompting an AI to make something like outlandish, and then say like, okay, now I can go get a real concept artist to go and make this awesome, like Son of Cthulhu Fireman, dude. That's going to be amazing when I make it.
Yeah. Well, speaking of, that's your current projects are you're thinking about AI as tools, right?
Yeah.
To do your future projects. And also you got this Brain Arcade podcast, which is awesome. You have how many episodes now? Like,
so one episode is out and every Tuesday. And I have
every Tuesday.
8 banked. So
nice.
I'm starting to do more interviews now. And then, Liam is going to show up in a bunch of episodes, but there's also like new guests showing up, and they're not all game people, because I want to hear about, like, I think of game design from a heavy player psychology POV.
Right. Yeah.
But, I'm going to talk to some movie people and some other things and try to find those commonalities. And like, it's all about the audience brain, right? Like, what is the audience thinking? What are they doing? And things like the rule of sevens will come out. But what that actually means in practice and execution, and then other things like I said, the rhythm thing, right? So, like when you watch a movie, this is a movie thing that I stole for some Frontline stuff. The BPM of the scene that you're watching is the BPM that they want your heart to be at.
Whoa.
Yeah.
120.
So right. But it fluctuates through the movie. Mm-hmm. So it'll be like, it's a calm scene. Like if there's any background music, it'll be running at a BPM of 60 to 80.
Right.
Okay.
It's intended to calm you down.
And then, exactly. Chill you out. Right. Okay. And then suspense hits. It's still a slow BPM, but it's uncomfortable. So you'll start to raise. And then when it's high action, like the BPM goes up, and basically you have this sympathetic effect of like your heart rate will match the BPM.
Right.
So,
you're in the experience.
Right. And so there are places on the beat chart with Michael Giacchino where I'm like, March 120, here's 160, here's and we actually talked about like the BPM of the heart rates that we wanted.
It's so funny, man. When I'm doing music, like writing like music albums, I think about that, like taking the listener starting at a slow pace or a high pace, and then we take them through these valleys, and then you bring them up to a peak, but you don't keep them there for too long because it's going to wear them out. So then you bring it back down. Right. And then maybe at the end of the album is this climactic, song at 200 beats per minute, and then kind of cool.
Yeah, exactly. And like you compose the whole experience, right? And that's absolutely relevant to the way I think about building, a 45-minute level or a 20-minute level.
I didn't realize how much overlap there was from the two different art forms. That's so crazy.
Huge. The common thing is time.
Yeah.
The experience is time. And so like the human experience of time and how we experience it is a huge factor in how I think about like design stuff.
Well, I don't know how you're feeling, Chris, but I would say, should we leave it there?
We should. I could do this all night.
Keep going. I know we could.
Yeah,
we could.
Actually, so where can we find Brain Arcade? What's the platforms and all that? Yeah.
You can find it on YouTube. It's harder to find because there's other Brain Arcade things. But Spotify, Pandora, so Electric Cash should link you to everything. All the usual stuff. Yeah.
Awesome.
So, look at that. It's on Amazon too. I got to go there and follow it.
So we're going to list all of Chris's links in this video description. Yeah. We're going to title this video something probably like the history of Medal of Honor with, lead designer, Chris, something like that.
I think you should title it, There's Always a Peeing Guy. There's always a
That's going to be the quote. That's the quote in the thumbnail.
That's the quote. There's always a peeing guy.
There's always a peeing guy. Like inane secrets of Medal of Honor. Like
yes, I'm writing that down. Okay,
stories from the fireside, or like
fireside chat, ward stories,
or like stories. Like what's a good military thing? Stories from the command tent. Like there's always a peeing guy.
There's always a peeing guy. That is amazing. This might be our biggest episode yet. That's that. I love that.
AKA how to make a shooter in a post-Columbine world. Sorry, that's a little dark, but that's a story about Medal of Honor.
That'll be the title.
Yeah.
How to make a shooter in a post-Columbine world.
Yeah.
See Kyle Nazi Parappa the Rappa.
That's right.
That's the YouTube short.
So, all right, I'll leave you with this idea. One of the ones, oh my God, this is so terrible. So one of the but we did this all day long working on Medal of Honor. Like we were like, oh my God, you know what's funny? And then I think like Mario Kart had come out, and like Steve Ratter, who was in the video that we showed earlier, is a guy with a beard. Like he and I were yucking it up. And by the way, everybody's insane. You're not sleeping. Sure. You're hyped up on sugar and caffeine. And like, perfect. I think I was still smoking at the time. I was like I was just a mess. Right. And so basically we're like, oh my God, what if we did, I think we were doing the minecart levels and we were talking about like inappropriate World War II games. And we're like, oh, what if we did like Catch That Pigeon, but with Hitler? Like catch that Hitler, catch that Hitler, and it's like it's in go-karts, and like imagine the Luigi meme where he's driving by, right, and he's giving you that side eye, and it's like a cartoon like Hitler, and he's going like bye bye, and then like it's so terrible, but it was also like really funny for us to have those moments. Like somebody drew on my whiteboard like a go-kart, and it was like very, very funny to us. Like it's totally something that we would have never admitted in public before, but it was.
I remember back in the day when we could just laugh at the best and stupid.
But
it's a little tougher these days.
Even we knew we couldn't.
Even back then,
Even back then,
it was over the line.
Actually, I'll leave it on this. Here's the thing: Medal of Honor has no Nazis in it. All the German soldiers are German regulars.
Really?
Yeah. So every unit that you get in a briefing is actually researched, and we pulled them from the actual locations they were at, and we avoided pulling any of the Nazi unit numbers, at least up until like Rising Sun. And then but there's also no swastikas. There's no portraits of any of the leading party. There's no Himmler, Goering, no Hitler. You'll never see one painting of them because the philosophy was don't give them any stage time.
I like that.
Right. And so even though we joke about like it's always appropriate to shoot Nazis, right? Like that was the running joke on the team. There were actually no Nazis in the game.
None. Never noticed that actually.
None at all. And you didn't even miss them.
You didn't even miss them.
Which is actually the sweetest revenge. You weren't even missed.
You weren't even missed.
Yeah.
You weren't even missed.
There's the other subtitle for the episode.
There's so many good titles here. There's there's going to be some YouTube shorts. I did not
see that coming. You weren't even missed. Pun.
And with that, everybody,
that we can end it. Yeah.
We'll get into our wrap-up spiel here. So, all right, everybody, I want to thank you all so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe if you enjoyed this video, if you listened to this podcast, and subscribe for more, all that good stuff. And a special thanks to our channel members, our patrons, our subs, all of you out there listening. We could not do this without you. Perks with RH start for as little as $3 a month. Join us in our Discord to chat and play games, and join Rob and I and Ben and producer Sony on the next podcast where we're going to get into even more shenanigans, who knows what. But until then, I want you to go check out Brain Arcade. There's some awesome nuggets of information and gold in those episodes in the description.
It's a really good listen. Yeah.
I want you to go play some of Chris's games because all of them have something special in them. Medal of Honor, a special place in my heart. And also, there's always a peeing guy. There's always a peeing guy.
Look for the peeing guys. Find the peeing guys. That's everyone's homework.
We need to know where the peeing guys are. But until then, this has been Stubbs on behalf of Chris and Rob saying, take care of those handhelds, everybody, and each other.